it's not a film about an artist who died 30 years ago, not a film about art history. In a way, it is a film about our presence today, and I miss him. I miss Joseph Beuys, and I think I want to transfer my affinity to him. I think a lot of people misunderstood him in all the years, especially when he was alive. Hardly nobody really understood him. A lot of people just thought he's crazy, he's mad, should go into a lunatic asylum. And I was very curious to rediscover him in a way. So I went into the archives. I found 400 hours of footage, video footage, film footage, audio footage. And for me it was great to discover also his humor and the capacity of being a great artist, and thinking about breaking down the walls of the museums. Art should go out into society, should shift something into society to give a fresh breath or fresh oxygen into the brain of everybody. And not just like a message, he really believed in the human being, that everybody is an artist, everybody is capable to change society. And this is a good message. Beuys is for me a very important artist, and also somebody who gives me hope that with a good energy you can reach people, you can break the walls of all the limitations people have, because everybody is busy with himself, egoistic, and doing just his or her job in everyday life. And he gives me a wider horizon. He believes in the human being, of changing something, of the capability of a good energy which can move walls and open the space of thinking, of the mind, of all our limitations. And so when I was young, I discovered him the first time. I was very impressed. I was 17.
Me too.
Yeah, 17, 18, and I felt he's very special. He's different to other artists.
Very difficult.
He's a challenge, but I like challenges. Yeah. Because if you discover something and after 2 seconds you know what he or she wants to say, and then it's boring. Yeah? And if you deal with somebody who challenges you, who gives you in a way a task to deal, what does he mean when he says everybody is an artist? He doesn't mean everybody is a painter, everybody is a composer, or an architect. No, he means everybody has abilities to do something. He believes in the abilities of every human being. And then we are very close to very important political questions. He's talking about equal opportunities. He says democracy is only possible if we really reach the goal of equal opportunities. If we have an elite, a small elite, and the elite is just in a way restructuring by itself, the same people are in the same high positions. The children again come into the high positions. We are not really an open society. All these issues, what does it mean, a real democracy? So, and what kind of money system we have to have. He was not a socialist, but of course he was criticizing, he was in a way foreseeing financial crises. If money is something like our God, everybody is just making more money out of money. If we detach this sphere from the production sphere, from the really creating products, creating creativity, and we just make money to make more money, then it's like a bubble, and the bubble will burst one day, and that was something what happened in 2007, 2008. So he gave me a lot of impact, a lot of new ideas so I thought, it's not a film about an artist who died 30 years ago, not a film about art history. In a way, it is a film about our presence today, and I miss him. I miss Joseph Beuys, and I think I want to transfer my affinity to him. my necessity to look for people like him, because I miss them. There are very few like him today. And so that's the reason why I thought I have to make a film on him.
In response to the society nowadays?
Yeah, in response to a vacuum. If there's emptiness and you see something who could fill as a human being, he is not a myth, yeah? He is a human being, he's also, well, light is shadow, of course, it's not a monument, but with all his ideas, with all his possibilities, he fills up this emptiness of egoism, this emptiness of everybody is taking care only about himself or maybe the small family, but nobody's thinking about what is happening outside. Nobody shows responsibility for the society. Unless you get good benefit in a way, then you show responsibility, but in a very small angle. And he actually had this huge angle, this very broad view on society, and that's why I think it's good to make a film on him.
So, but you made this film for 18 months?
Yeah, in the editing room. It was really a long time. No daylight like here. If you have to imagine a room like this, no daylight for 18 months, it's like prison. But it was great. It was a great time, not because I'm a masochist. It was great to open all these treasure boxes of archive footage. When you discover this film, which never was shown before, and that part of a movie, and this part of an interview, and suddenly you bring it together. This is the myth of editing. You have two photos, and each photo is okay by itself, but you bring them together, and suddenly you have a story, a small scene, tells something like a small snatch of his biography, and suddenly you understand something like his piece of art show you a wound. Suddenly you understand, okay, you see there's a vulnerability, yeah? There's a human being who has wounds, or had a lot of wounds. He was in the Second World War, and later on he came into a big crisis, psychological crisis, it was a long depression, and then later he was close to a heart attack. So he touched death, and he went always out of the valley, out of the crisis, and he developed a new energy by being very close at the brink of death. And this is also something to understand. Crisis in life is not the end. You can transform crisis to very constructive, or in a very constructive.
German spirit.
Yeah, yeah. And so this was another aspect I discovered in the editing room. But we had to find a form, yeah, aesthetic approach, and so we worked a lot with photos, with these prints, with this very analog, old-fashioned prints in the film, and so we.
And the music. Often the music is very. You use some jazz music.
Yeah, yeah. We worked with the composers. They are really great. They were very patient. They had to be very patient with me as a director, and with the editors, because they worked, I think, about 8 months just on the music and the sound design. And they proposed something, and then we said, no, it's not yet good, you have to go back and change this and that. And then they thought it was good, and then we said again, no, this little piece, this has to be changed. And we said, oh my God, what? We changed so much, and again, in a way, it was starting from the scratch, from point zero. So in the end, it's a great result. I'm very satisfied with the music and the sound design. So I think around 6-7 years ago, there was a show, an exhibition of Beuys in Berlin in a museum. I went in and I saw these huge fat objects and all this. But this was not a reason to make a film. I discovered political Beuys in this exhibition. It was 1 year after this huge financial crisis, and Beuys said, well, we have a problem with the money system. And I said, what the hell, he's 30 years, died 30 years ago, and he's telling me something. This artist of Fettenfeld dares to tell me something about financial crises. I said, that's something that interests me. And then I took the footage. I went into the footage and I discovered somebody who, a lot of people were just making jokes on him. Deal with your fat, deal with your felt, and don't dare to say anything about economic, political issues. So they were quite arrogant, and suddenly I discovered somebody who is in a way very current about today's life. And so I said, okay, I want to make a film. And of course there were a lot of hurdles. First of all, of course, the money question, because you have to have a huge budget to pay all the fees for the licensing of the archive footage. Everybody, if you want to take a photo, there's a photographer who says, well, I want $1,000, and say, listen, it's one photo. We have 400 photos. If you want to have 1,000 US, we just pay for the photos 400,000. It's silly. We never can do it. So I had to ask in the very end for 50. He said, no, if I give it this photo for 50, everybody says you gave it to Andres for 50, I also want it for 50. I cannot give it for 50. And then he said 500, and I said 60. So it was like on the fish market in a way. And sometimes I failed, because people said, very sorry, I would like to support you, but it's a market price, and if I give it for a low price to you, everybody wants it for 50 or 60. I cannot do it, and so I had to give it up. And then we had to change the editing, because sometimes it's really strange, like a cart house. You take one piece out and it breaks, because it's a very tight way of storytelling. This photo, that photo, this photo, this part of the film, this photo. You take one photo out and everything is demolished. So it was, that's why we edited it for 18 months. It was finished in a way after 12 months. And 6 months were just getting the permission to use this and that photo, or his life as an artist. It means the art products, the pieces of art, the performances. But you cannot detach it from his biography. And his biography you cannot detach from his political ideas. So it's like a triangle. You have to put these different columns together and build something. And I always try to find what is his inner necessity to do all this. Why did he take this a lot of effort? Somebody told me in the film, well, from morning to night, his first appointments on the phone were at 5 o'clock in the morning, and he stopped at 3 o'clock at night, so it's impossible not to get a heart attack. And so for me, when you ask how could you find a way through the jungle of footage of all these different layers and levels, I think for me the core of it was transforming crises, transforming situations in the war, for example, when he was a pilot and the plane crashed, but he survived, and he had some sort of legend that he survived because the Tatars in Russia rescued him. Yeah, rescued him with fat and felt, and that's the reason why he used this footage or this material in his artwork, fat and felt. Of course, there are legends. Of course, there are myths. But for me, it was necessary to find an approach that you always see he's a human being. He's not an abstract myth. Full of mystery. Yes, he is, but at the same time he has feelings, he has humor, he is sometimes strange. You can also say very strange, or even mad or whatever, but very well full of humor, and that's why he was never dogmatic. I think humor is like a recipe. Not to become narrow-minded and like a teacher, you have to do this, and if you don't do this, this will happen. So he was open-minded, and I think this is very un-German. Because German, as you know, might know, sometimes dogmatic and like this, very efficient, and 1, 2, 3, 4 made in Germany. And he was different, and that was another reason to discover there is somebody with a huge amount of ideas, believing in the capability and the abilities of a human being, but never dogmatic, always with humor, like a hare. You know, the hare is not running straight. The hare is going this way. And when you think, oh, now he goes in this direction, suddenly he changes and goes in another one. And you are always trying to follow him, and that's the challenge.